either side of T1 to see how that fishing for the foot is going, like the sense of a connection into one foot and then the other. And then firstly you've looked at people. See, you always go into doing. Stop, look. Stop and observe, front from the back, even from the side. And then shift weight, pushing, blah, blah, blah. You can and talk to them about how their experience of the finger stiller. What's their experience of the standing leg? Now we've done the sort of that ATM only on pretty much on one side this morning, so there might be a little bit of a echo of that bias today, which will mean that people are either even more on their left leg or really confused. Left leg. Yeah. And then the person lies down and you have a look. So what people are sort of gesturing about is Gloria's left leg is quite underneath her. And because the people at her head end can really see that left leg line. So this is looking at this stuff is the elusive obvious. That sometimes I think, am I just telling myself I can see that, or do I really see it? So the thing is, when you think you see a pattern, you hang on to it pretty loosely, because we are quite good at faking, and we are quite good at seeing the emperor's new clothes. Do you know that story? Yes. So we're good at seeing what we're told to see. If you can't see it, it doesn't matter. Like I swear, I went through 4 years of my training, and the trainers would come and go, "Oh yes, look at that," and I'd go, "I think the emperor's nude. I can't see anything." And then I'd try and pretend that I could see it. I couldn't see it. So go easy on yourself about this, whether we have a shared reality or not. If you don't share it at that moment, it panic. Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. And, I was young and I wanted to be a good student and I wanted to do the right thing. So I would never say that I didn't see it. Like, I didn't say that the emperor was nude for me. So it is, and then every time, we had the sort of the visiting accent, as I used to call them. So, tell us what you see. Like, I don't know what I'm meant to see. Because by then I had a voice to ask for what I wanted, and they still wouldn't give it to me because you'll see what you see. Anyway, that's a long story that says very little. All right, so we've got Gloria. What we're observing is that we think that her left leg is maybe her preferred leg for standing, that what she feels more stable on at the moment, but maybe not. Gloria, what is your normal? What would you predict? Okay, and normally it's not? You don't have a normal? Shifty bunch. Shifty bunch. Plastic as a set of Tupperware pots. All right. So, and then the recap is, you can push through each leg, but remember yesterday we did a more differentiated, or a more precise, actually, not differentiated, a more precise version of pushing through the leg, where you really explored either side of what you think is weight bearing in terms of a little bit out and a little bit in, and a little bit up and a little bit down, and then having that fantasy of finding the absolute top of the hip joint and snugging up in there, so like the roof of the hip joint, as opposed to pushing more into the side of the inner side of the hip joint, or there, but seeing if you can really find that the roof and there, which may, and then also whether you get more of the roof when you're internally or externally rotated. So the 3 degrees of freedom. That. So a little, but quickly, like this is not you can make that an endless lifelong quest. But how much is enough to just sort of reacquaint yourself? Because it's the same person, right? This is an ongoing you're picking up a conversation where you left off. and just reminding them standing there. And of course, my self-use is out of 10, 0, 0.5. Because where is my source of power? And where is the line of force? And is there any congruence? Very little. But I can get away with it because he hasn't got a nervous system. Yeah, that's right. And he's going, I don't like that. So.
Hence the finger.
Hence the finger, exactly. Everything is congruent. So, and then with the leg that was less aligned, so possibly freer for whatever, might not be kicking, but it might be whatever, you were exploring this idea of turning and then this. So, you know, I'm not going to go straight in and go straight to fourth base or home base or third base or whatever. This idea of turning and this idea of the leg being freer. Oh, that's right, the jiggly leg business. Jiggly leg. That is more jiggly. There's heaps more jiggly, even that, well, I didn't take time to organise, but it is. Now, there was another thing I was thinking afterwards, that you can, if that jiggles too much in the knee, you can kind of pick up a little bit from the fibula. She has a lot of jiggle in the knee joint itself. So if you wanted to come up above without giving them the can you ride a horse test, which is not Feldenkrais, you know that test. You know when people are sitting and you grab them here and you squeeze and they go, ah! And that's the how can you ride a horse? Didn't your dad do that to you? In the back seat. Oh, my dad used to do that to me all the time. Yeah. Horse bite. Oh. It's sort of a tickle hurt. It's a tickle hurt, a hurt tickle, something like that. Anyway, so you don't, a horse bite. Yeah. So you could try there without making it a horse bite. And it shouldn't be tickly hurt because the muscle isn't tense. That's why it tickle hurts, because the muscle's tense. But here it shouldn't be because it's longer. Anyway, that's the jiggle stuff. And then this kind of idea.
Actually, just before you go on,
yeah.
What I observed that you didn't comment on was that you actually had hold of the leg in a nice bony way before you began to jiggle.
Oh yes, absolutely. This is a comment that holds true all the time, is that you see us working quite fast, and sometimes we do go into the grab move as one word, and it's not. It's actually what Jenny was said very early on about I establish the contact and then the invitation to move. So this is the first, what did you call it? This is we sort of thing. Because now we're used to saying, hi, how are you? And getting on with it because we've been doing it. But that's a bit sloppy, to be honest. So, and I can be extremely sloppy about that. I can become familiar too quickly, would be the way to phrase it. That would be a life lesson for me. So don't become familiar too quickly. Do the niceties.
Gloria was one of the stroke from Beverly and Jensen, and she asked her about how to feel. And she gave Gloria, who passed it on to me, a really good tip of feel skin first, flesh, then bone.
Yeah.
And it seems to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the classic, is that and in fact, you make contact with the sock first. Yeah. And then you feel the way in. So, and again, we'll go through this more next segment, not we, but Jeff, about that sort of stuff. And you absolutely do that. Now, that is particularly important when you're transmitting force. Okay, so that because then you don't go smack into their bone like that. So that you start by so I wouldn't recommend you be that formal in any hold, because you'll be there forever. So, but when you're thinking about transmitting force, you absolutely think through that. Okay, so then there was this idea of, again, finding sort of some kind of neutral in this hip and then finding out where she wants to go and just in terms of saving time, giving her that idea, I'm going to just show her that idea, because it would take about 15 minutes for her leg to soften and for me to be able to do that. So that's a shortcut, okay? The shortcut clue was that I put my hand under the knee and not only bent her up, but rolled her out. Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Makes the other person feel secure.
Feel secure.
Yeah. So then when you come back to here and I get the sort of that nice little grip under her heel and turn her foot, she knows the movement and it goes up. Now, in a long FI, what is actually really nice is to not do the shortcut and to take the time for her hip to learn to do that spontaneously, because it's such a surprise for the person that they have that freedom. And it's a bit like when you tell a joke and you leave out a few little keys, and then you see the person thinking, and then they get it, and it's even funnier because they had to do a little bit of, that's really funny. So just be aware that sometimes the shortcuts take away the drama of the discovery a little bit.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
I can just see that Gloria's leg is, her knee is up a bit when you come round like that.
Up a bit, like flexed a little bit?
Yeah, sorry. So it's not going flat to the ground,
Yeah.
which for many of us,
Oh, I
that's
see.
not
Yeah,
what it
yeah,
would
yeah,
do.
yeah.
I was just wondering if you would...
Like that, here.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
part of the reason you might have one hand is because you provide a bit of support.
Yes.
So that they don't then get that anxiety that...
Yeah, the leg's going to fall out. Yeah, absolutely. And if you felt that they didn't like their hip hanging open like that when you're doing the rocking thing, you could keep your arm there, or you could actually put something underneath there. Yeah, if you're going to be there for any period of time. So very good. These are niceties, important niceties. Like any nicety, they're important. Okay, so there's another thing we can do about a jiggly leg. It's in Larry's terms, and these are all variations of I can't remember what workshop from Larry. Maybe the Finding Your Feet workshop. I can't remember. Is to then really differentiate the foot. So I did this with you. So I'll show this because I think it's quite interesting, and it's quite an interesting thing to play with. And if you want some little tricks, little FI tricks, say to somebody, this is what we do. This is, to my mind, a bit of a difference between, this isn't a foot massage or reflexology, because of what's in our mind in terms of the questions that Jenny was saying. So you're going to find each toe, and there are 5 toes for most people. It's tempting to take the sock off, but don't take the sock off because it just whatever. Now, some trainers, I remember Mark Rees, he wouldn't touch people's feet unless they brought in a clean pair of socks that hadn't been in shoes and stuff. He was really fastidious about feet and cleanliness and what he touched. You have to work out your own thing about that, about what you're prepared to do. If someone's been walking around and going into the toilets with their socks on and blah blah blah, you have to think about that for yourself, about what's acceptable for you or not. I personally don't really care. However, I do have some clients, not lately, when I used to work a lot in disability with people who had continence issues, there's a bit of a podiatry joke about we running down legs into shoes. It's my podiatry friends. It happens. So things can get really mucky down here, just saying. So you have to know where your barriers are, right? It's just... Yeah, that's... People might be embarrassed about having, sort of really smelly socks. And actually, you're right, people are. And I remember going to the podiatrist at work, going, oh, sorry, my feet probably stink. And they just did that polite smile. And I was, oh, yeah, everybody says something like that. Because, oh, have you? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So you can just ask people to bring a clean pair of socks in their bag if you want to. It's fine. Or like in the shoe shop, you know? Yep. Okay. So anyway, that's a bit. So there are 5 toes, and you're going to, in this kind of grip, so you've got a toe in between 3 of your digits so that they get a sense of the top and the bottom of the toe. If you just pinch, then you might squeeze it, but with 3 you probably won't pinch it so much. But they get this sense of the 3-dimensionality of the toe, and explore a little bit that the toe will bend at that first joint, and it will bend at the second joint, and it will move away. And then the toe turns around itself a little bit. Now, actually, the big toe probably has a small element of turning around itself, but we lose that facility. So hold the toe like this and turn it around itself, like on a longitudinal axis. It's a really unusual movement. And then you'll feel, you go tiny, tiny, and you'll feel that there is this slight pickup of the next bone in the foot. So if you look here, see this sort of, the metatarsal bone, this long bone, which looks like, it is actually a longer part of the toe. It's called the first ray. So there are 5 rays. So you think about then by holding the big toe, and you can even then come down onto that joint if you want, you can start to pick up, you're turning the toe. So he's so differentiated, like, ooh, 360-degree toe. On a real person, that whole ray will start turning around itself. And it's an amazing feeling, and it will start turning the whole foot. So you start getting a feeling of the foot rotating in and the foot rotating out. Now, interestingly, by the time you get to the 5th ray, when you turn it in, the foot actually turns out. And when you turn the ray out, the foot turns in. So it stops, and then the middle ray is kind of neutral. When you turn the ray about itself, it would sort of do that. Anyway, I'm not going to go through the whole lot because you get the point. And the point is that you do it relatively slowly so that they get a sense of the foot turning in and out. And it's quite a different sensation from each toe or each ray, if you like. And then you start with the next one. And again, you explore the toe in terms of it bending and flexing at this joint. Now, these toes actually have 3 joints. The big toe only has 2 because it's the thumb. But the little tiny, phalanx is so tiny here, you might not get any bend, but it's just a little gentle thing like that. And then flexing, extending, flexing, extending. And then this turning about itself. Now, the other part of the trick of turning is to slightly traction it. Very slightly pull the toe. You're pulling, that way. So a compression would be pushing in. Traction is pulling apart the joints. So I'm just elongating there, which actually, for him, will lengthen the leg and open the hip joint out. Which you think about why this is a jiggly leg thing, is because if this is all compression, like standing, pushing, gravity, this is all kind of the opposites, opening joints out. So you're thinking about this kind of lengthening, and I mean, it does go up into her hip joint, and then turning around the toe, and then picking up that second ray and turning, and you can see the influence on her foot, and she's feeling something, who knows where. And then the next toe. And again, I'm going faster. Don't get lost in this, but also be precise. Go slower than me. Flexing, turning. And then little baby toe, flexing, extending. and then turning and feeling how the turning out turns the foot in, turning in turns the foot out. Start from the toe and see, give her a sense that the toe is connected, and then come onto that metatarsal, onto the actual ray. Yeah.
But are you right at the base of the toe?
Yeah. So start above the base for the toe part. And then when you really want to turn the whole ray, just for ease, go onto the actual metatarsal, so below the base. So if you can see here on that. See, look here, there. So I'm turning the metatarsal, yeah. But I've still got contact with the toe so that they know it's all part of the same line. Okay, so there's that. So it's very differentiating. And my point about this is not massage and it's not reflexology, is you're not going for particular points for an effect. What your hands are saying is, oh, okay, this is a bit of a statement. This is a big toe. Oh, okay, and your big toe does this. Did you know that your big toe does this and this and this? Ah, and then did you know that your big toe does this and this? And maybe this is easier than this. Or actually, no, that is easier than that. So you've got these questions like what's easy and did you know kind of questions. So some of them are quite closed in that did you know? And others are which way is easier? And then what does this do? If I turn you here, what does this do? That's quite open-ended. So that's why this is not a massage and it's not a reflexology, because you're not curing anything. You don't have a specific purpose of freeing up or anything like that. It is simply a conversation about what do you know and what can I find out and is that interesting and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so they're different. They're all very valid purposes, and they all have different intentions. Okay, and then you could go back to maybe that thing or whatever, or you could just leave it actually and ask the person to slowly roll over and stand up. Yeah, so they can just stand like that and compare it to this foot. So bizarrely, I actually find that I stand better on my foot after this has been done. It's not in the script, but that's what I personally feel. But anyway, you feel, Gloria, I trust, will feel what she feels, not what I've implanted in her head. Yeah. Which for me equates with stability, but who knows, It's not an absolute. I'm sorry, I'm not a teacher that can teach absolutes. I just can't. Maybe I'm a bit of a contrarian as well. I'm looking at you when I said that, but I didn't mean to. You're not really a contrarian. And what did she say? What did you say? Oh yeah, okay. So, Gloria, do you feel like you'd like to stand up or really not? Now, so I personally love having my feet played with, but some people have a real thing about their feet. I had a client once who just cried after I touched her feet because she said her feet felt beautiful, but her dad had always told her that she had really ugly feet, a bit like we're talking about with this image stuff. And, she was in her 50s at that point. And she went, oh, God, now I have to rearrange. She's like, I have to rearrange my whole thing. I've lived my whole life thinking my feet are ugly. And now I've got this possibility that they're beautiful. Bugger you kind of thing. I know her quite well. Sorry? Possibly. Ah, bastard. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It had made us much more symmetrical.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is if I go to the punchline of what I was talking about, is that we can have this conceit in our mind that all of this stuff is about standing and all of this stuff is about jiggling. What's the effect of more jiggling, like going with a pattern? It could actually make it more standing. So in the whole scheme of the lesson, oh no, I won't tell you. I told Beck yesterday, I won't tell anybody. Punchline tomorrow. The FI lesson. Thank you. Is that all right? Have a crack. So now, because this can be such you can lose yourself in this exploration. Give yourself a time boundary. I'll give you a time boundary of 20 minutes each.